A pity Willem is not with us. Were he to see what lies before our eyes, caught a whiff of the burnt bodies, perhaps he would see with whom he now consorts, whom he allowed in our home with nary a fight.
If it be your Majesty's wish, I shall send a rider to the Prince with her.
I wish nothing of the sort. I will not correspond with the enemy.
Yes?
This Eldane. Could you tell me about him?
He should hang.
I'd hope to hear advice that will be useful to us in battle.
First of all, you can't rightly trust the bastard. He doesn't respect our laws, doesn't share our morals. The king once dispatched an envoy to Eldane, despite my advice to the contrary. Found the envoy the next day, eyes gouged out, shaft of his white flag jammed down his throat.
So, diplomacy is clearly not the wisest course. But what of battle? What tactics does he employ?
Like all elves, he's a worm. Avoids open confrontation, sets ambushes, attacks from the shadows, from midst the trees. It would be best to burn this whole forest to the ground, deprive him and his folk of cover, any place to hide.
Sounds rather drastic. Like tossing the babe out with the bath.
Believe me, they'd not hesitate to do the same to us. Not for a moment.
Rayla, how are you holding up?
Not certain I understand what you mean.
All Edirne is aflame. Nilfgaard's banners fly over its cities. Don't tell me you're not troubled.
Of course I'm troubled. I stationed at Rosberg for 5 years. Knew all on the crew there by name. But that's war. That's its nature. No sense bemoaning it.
I see. Just know if ever you wish to talk.
I won't. But I do appreciate your concern, ma'am.
I must go. We'll speak later.
Your Majesty, I've been meaning to thank you for allowing me to join your ranks.
Certainly, Xavier. I welcome all foes of Nilfgaard to march beneath my banner. But what did the field surgeon say? Have you not resumed work too soon?
I've strength enough to wield a hammer, though my scars still burn, and fiercely so. Milady, I've seen folk turn and frown at the very sight of me. If my appearance disgusts you, I can...
Nonsense. The Nilfgaardians, not you, should be ashamed. You've no reason to hide, no reason to cower.
Thank you, milady. It means a great deal to hear that.
You've long served in King Demoven's army, haven't you?
Yes, Your Grace.
Why enlist at all? What prompted you to do so?
The king needed engineers. I answered the call.
Not terribly talkative, are you?
I can build any bridge, any ballista, but to talk, well, it hurts to talk.
I see. Well, do not worry. I prefer deeds to words, in myself and others. Other matters await my attention. We shall speak later.
As you wish, my lady.
Maeve's ears caught the sound of a ruckus coming from the camp.
Thieves! Inglet! A pox upon you all!
It was her quartermaster hurling oaths at the peasants she had freed from the Nilfgaardian slave convoy. A few had stolen supplies under the cover of darkness and escaped into the woods. Terror and dread gripped the other freed prisoners. Maeve mulled over what to do with them, and Reynard, as always, offered some advice.
'Tis high time they went off on their own, Your Grace. They are too great a hindrance. They slow our march, divert our soldiers from more important tasks. And now this.
Gascon was listening to their conversation. Maeve shot him a questioning look.
I opposed taking them in. So, for consistency, I now oppose forcing them to leave. We made their miserable lives our responsibility, did we not? Well then, that is a burden we cannot simply shrug off.
Let us not mince words. We cast off these peasants now, they shall die.
Maeve said in the end.
Let them stay. But I want them watched. They cause any more trouble, military justice they shall face. Understood?
The freed prisoners sighed with relief. The infantrymen assigned to watch over them, however, grumbled their disapproval of the Queen's decision.
'Tis an army, not a shelter,
they said. Maeve's ears surely caught the complaint. But the Queen had never let the opinions of others guide her in such matters, trusting only her own judgment.
Not liking the looks of this.
Gascon said, furrowing his brow. Meve followed his gaze. Before them, beside the road, stood a hut with a scorched thatch roof.
Why?
Hut's abandoned, yet dried fruit and mushrooms hang from the eaves. Famine raging all around and no one's been tempted. I'd send a scout if I were you.
The Queen did as Gascon suggested and sent 3 infantrymen to reconnoiter. They entered the hut and found only silence that was soon broken by a blood-curdling growl. The soldiers ran out at full speed, tripping over their own legs. Meve drew her sword, convinced a horde of neckers or ghouls would soon attack. But her fears proved unfounded. Instead of monsters, out of the hut came a shaggy dog, a torn scrap of fabric clutched in its teeth.
Milady.
One of the soldiers began, his face red with embarrassment and his hands covering a hole in his breeches.
Was dark as a well inside, and that hound, it jumped out at us all of a sudden, biting it and snapping.
Bad boy,
Gascon said with a smile, then pulled a hunk of dried sausage from his bag. Bought by this generous offering, the dog calmed down at once. Further examination showed the dog was the hut's only resident. Like many others in Edern, its owners had disappeared without a trace. Their loyal mutt still guarded the premises, waiting for his master's return.
Let's take him with us.
Gascon said.
Otherwise, he'll die here, of his own hunger or someone else's.
A watchful sentry like this could prove useful in our camp.
Said the Queen.
Fine, he can join. But he shall need a name.
How about Reynard?
Proposed Gascon, a cheeky grin smeared across his face.
That way, he'll come when you call, sit on command, and always be a heel. Always heel, that is.
Watch your words,
said Reynard, hand tightly gripping the hilt of his sword.
or you'll learn I'm not at all as tame as you believe.
Enough, both of you. That's an order. As for you...
The Queen took a good look at the dog, who still had a scrap of fabric in his teeth.
Since it seems you've a taste for the cloth of the nether regions, I dub you... Knickers. Will that do?
The dog wagged its tail vigorously, as if thoroughly pleased with its new name. Meve's company marched off, a furry new recruit richer.
Watch your heads!
Pissing in the moat? Oh, dead. It's gonna be a right good levy, big and beautiful.
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
Meve and her companions neared the Moulderwood, a dense, ancient forest of trees whose tangled branches had witnessed the conjunction of the spheres. It was not until King Vidamont's day that a road was finally carved through the primeval thicket, significantly shortening the journey from Rossburg to Aldersburg.
Even when peace reigns, danger rules this road.
Rayla said.
Now no one dares travel it.
At the edge of the wood by the road stood an enormous willow. Its branches swept down to cover its trunk, looking for all the world like long tresses shrouding a woman's face. Meve had an ill premonition. She did not like the sickly sweet aroma wafting from this tree, nor the metallic buzzing of insect wings. She sent a scout to investigate. He drew aside the drooping branches and stumbled back. There were men bound to the tree, covered in sap oozing from gashes in its trunk. Its heavy scent had attracted swarms of insects, flies, wasps, bees and beetles. They seethed over the bound men, crawling in and out of their ears and nostrils.
Eldane welcomes us to his wood,
Rayla whispered. Meve stepped towards the tree and saw the men stuck to it were all still alive. Those the elves had caught recently writhed and howled for rescue. Those hanging longer merely followed the queen with half-crazed, bloodshot eyes.
Well? Are you to stand there all day?
Meve screamed to her dumbstruck Lyrians.
Free them! At once!
Her soldiers needed no more prompting and set about sawing at the ropes with their blades. As soon as they had freed the first captive, before even a word of thanks could be uttered, a flaming streak soared through the air and stuck in the tree. The oozing resin burst into flames, engulfing the prisoners as well as the soldiers who had come to their aid. Elder speech battle cries rang out from the woods as elven warriors launched their attack.
Nilkancia! It's a trap!
Cried Reynard.
Defend the Queen!
keep your heads in the fight! They'll seek to blind us with shock and awe!
Nej, du undviker mest.
I'll fight to my last breath!
Watch your heads!
We'll catch 'em all!
I shall not fail!
Kill them! Kill them all!
None shall tread on us!
Queen serves a purpose. Catch!
God's blast it! My breastplate chafes.
Discipline shall bring us victory!
Greetings. What is it? If anyone asks, you've not seen me.
Have strength, my love. The storm is coming. Let's enjoy the weather while we still can. Awaits us all.
The chase is on! Death to Old One!
And just when you thought things were about to get dull.
Don't let them regroup! Finish off the wounded!
The battle done, Meve surveyed the carnage, her breath still ragged. The thick stench of blood, sap, and ash she sucked in made her stomach churn and head swoon.
The Scoia'tael. I'd heard of their cruelty, but...
The Queen said, sheathing her sword.
But I... Never have I countenanced a thing like this.
Black Rayla, who had just extracted her blade from between an elven gorilla's ribs, smiled darkly.
Worst is yet to come, my lady.
The Queen regrouped her forces and marched into the Moulderwood. The Lyrians sang none of their usual marching songs. Instead, they walked in silence, eyes darting constantly to their flanks.
Hear that? Nightingales. Unmindful of war, they sing on.
Those are no birds, my lady. Just Scoia'tael scouts use animal cries to communicate. Tell the men to hold to the road, my lady. Anyone wanders in the trees, they don't come out.